Well, I'm joined here today in Falmouth at the Princess Pavilion Theatre by Derek Acorah. Welcome to Cornwall, Derek.
Thanks, Shane. It's nice to be here.
Derek, tell us, this isn't the first time you've been to Cornwall, is it?
No, I've been here many times. One comes to mind in an investigation that we did on the Most Haunted series. We went to a very, very lovely, if not lovely, Jamaica Inn.
Yeah.
It's got a history of paranormal events, energy there, negative, some the opposite.
Yeah.
And it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, if I can remember correctly. A vet said, "You know, Derek, I'd love you and Richard Felix, to go out onto Bodmin Moor. Check out this beast."
Yeah, that's right.
And I looked at Richard and he looked at me and he said, "Okay, what do you think?" Yeah. Now, by the time we got out there in the vehicle, it was winter, snowing, 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch black. And she said to us, "You must drive at least 4 or 5 miles into the moor, park up and go walkies."
Yeah.
I said, "Bait?" "Yeah, bait," she said. So we get there. Richard said, "I think we've gone a couple of miles." So we got out to the vehicle and it was cold. Oh my God, cold. And we started walking and we must have walked for a good 15 minutes away from the vehicle. You couldn't see the vehicle at the end. And we stopped and Richard said, "Well, nothing's happening at the moment." And I said, "No." And I said, "Well, just hold on." And we'll, the next minute, my arm gets wrenched. Derek, look. I said, "What? Look where?" He said, "To the left." So I looked, and all I could see was 3 pairs of eyes. And I thought, and I looked at Richard's face, and he said to me, "Oh my God, do you think," this was his words, "do you think there's 3 beasts on the moor?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." So I said, "Look, carry on walking. In actual fact, if those eyes follow us, we're going to turn around and we're back to that vehicle. Quick start." And he said, okay. So we carried on walking a bit, and then we saw another set of eyes, then another set of eyes. I said, "Richard, turn around quietly." I said, "And let's get back to that vehicle." Well, I didn't realise that Richard was as nimble as what he was.
Yeah.
The man the same age as me. And he just went off and I couldn't see him. So I went as fast as I could. We got back to the vehicle, and just as we were getting, I thought, we've got a big torch in there. And I noticed the eyes had come after us. And I got this big torch, and like this, from the doorway. And lo and behold, it's a group of sheep. So that was our encounter with the Bodmin, the Beast of Bodmin.
The Beast of Bodmin.
Yeah.
Well, there you are.
It was quite funny because when we come back, we have the footage on the small cam.
Yeah.
All the crew left because it was spontaneous. It was like natural.
Yeah.
And Richard just turned to camera and said, "You know what? Him being a medium, he should have known it was sheep."
That's right. Well, you must get that all the time. Let's talk about it. I mean, the mediumship is, I'll call it an industry, let's put it that way, that, you know, that people like yourself work in, that is always subject to, you know, negative kind of
ridicule.
You know, ridicule, non-believers, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And I think every kind of medium must suffer that kind of, they can't do it, they're not really real. What's your thoughts on it, really? I mean,
well, you know, let's go back maybe 30 odd years ago. Let's go back to some of the greats within mediumship. I mean, one comes to mind very strongly, the lovely Doris Stokes.
Right.
Doris in a day, Doris was more ridiculed than basically anyone, even before mediums before her. And I remember speaking to her on a couple of occasions, and she said, "You know what, in this game," she said, her words, "game, in this game," she said, "a very lovely game," she said, "you have to learn for your shoulders to be broadened." And I said, "Well, you know, what do you actually mean?" She said, "Well, it's part of what you do. There's so many people that don't understand it. Some of them don't want to comprehend it, and the others are open, or some of them are sitting on the fence. You've got every type of way of thinking, but the ones who are negative, no matter what you do," and that was the first time I ever heard this, Shane. She said, "Do you think for a moment that if you were to say to a skeptical-minded, cynical-minded man or woman, hey, you're going to see manifestation of spirit in front of you right now," she said, "what do you think their answer would be to it? Or would they be stunned? Would they be shocked? What would they say then?" And I said, well, I've proven it to them." "No," she said, "skeptical minds set." And probably that person would say, "Another trick again. It's not an optical illusion. That is basically what we call when we build an image that comes out. In other words, it's a hologram.
Yeah.
She was right. So basically, I don't say anything these days to skeptical minds. I'll stand and converse, and I won't even go into my point of view. And some of them will ask me different questions. I say, us as mediums, we're not here to convert in people into like a religion.
Yes.
We're here to demonstrate, to try and show you that what is possible and what is not possible. And mediums like myself conversing, seeing or even hearing spirit people, we may be deemed by the masses strange, bizarre, whatever, but you've got to accept that, because it's not everyone every day and every minute can see spirit people or even hear them. We're in a small category, and if you are developed far enough, you should be able to, without really being a task to you, should be able to prove to a certain degree. The knowledge that comes through in demonstrations can be not just remarkable, can be stunning. For a skeptical mind to say, if they're honest, well, look, I'm sitting next to this person, I know all about her or his life, and what that man's just said would have to be a very close family member to be able to come out with all this information, and especially who the person is communicating, how the person passed over, what were symptoms in an illness before, how long the illness for. Sometimes you even get, they'll tell you the house number and the street they've lived in, and then talk about other members that they've met when they've gone to the world of spirit. None of that information can be correlated, not even from libraries.
Yeah.
So that in its entirety has kept me going and kept me as interested in my work as what it was 35, 40 years
So when
ago.
did you discover it then, this
When I was
gift?
6.
Yeah.
I was only 6 in my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
I was playing upstairs, and Mum, we lived in my grand's at that time because Mum and Dad couldn't afford a home. He worked away at sea, and what Gran said, you live with us, you can have your children here. It's a big old Victorian house, very kind of it. We came home from school, that was my brother and sister, which was right across the road from our front door, very convenient. And we were sent right to the top of the house, the top one being the attic, that was converted into a playroom for us kids. And we got called down this one particular time by Mum and Gran. Dinner was ready, and I was the last to get down to the last landing. They'd already got to the bottom, and I heard this bang and hustle inside, and I looked to my left, and there was a man standing at the doorway of the bedroom. I could see him like him looking at you, tangibly. Clothes, coloration, features, see it. And to me, as a little boy, he seemed a giant, he was big. And he then spoke to me. But when he spoke to me, it wasn't like you or I speaking. It was like, I could see this moving, but it was like distance of sound. But I managed to remember what he said to me. And all I was thinking in my mind, young mind then, was, what is this stranger doing in my grand's house? How did he get in? Has he got a key? Because I'm thinking, hey, he's not a spirit person, he's not a ghost, because I knew nothing about those things. When I was allowed to, by him, go down and tell your Gran about talking with Richard, I went down and immediately ran to a cupboard, opened the doors, brought this old tin box out, and just took the lid off and just dumped all these like pictures, images of people I'd never seen before. And I spotted him in 2 photographs. One, head and shoulders, when he was a bit younger, and the other one, lo and behold, in this grey charcoal suit that I saw him up there in the bedroom. And I told her, Gran kept it to herself, looked at Mum, and said, don't worry, son, patting me, that man will never get back in this house again. Changed the locks. And it was left at that. I was only 6. It wasn't until I was 9.5 that Gran and Mum decided to sit me down and tell me exactly what had gone on that day. When I heard it, and then Gran said to me, what you will be is what I do, what I am now, and the gifts have come to you, not your mother, but to you, as of the children. And I said, I don't want to be, this is a 9.5-year-old boy, I don't want to be seeing ghosts and that sort of thing. I don't want it. as a kid, even from that tender age, all I ever wanted what was in here because I wanted to be a footballer. That was, my whole life in my heart. And Gran said to me that you will play football. All those years before, when I was 9, my gran, or Nana, she said I would play football for a side that were in red and white. All those years before. Didn't mention Liverpool, but mentioned the Scotchman, who'd be like a father to me, which was Bill Shankly. And he was like a father to me. If ever there was a manager wanted a young apprentice pro, or then a young pro, to make the grade, Bill Shankly wanted me to make it. So I let him down, I suppose.
Explain to our viewers your view on life. Life, what is it all about?
Well, this life is for you or all of us to enjoy every experience that we have, whether it be good, bad or indifferent, because even from the bad and the indifference, we can learn valuable lessons to help strengthen our inner self, our spirit self, our soul growth. What I've learned over the years is, what doesn't appear to be helpful to people is if you sit down at length in seminar, talking individually one-to-one about soul growth, it has a tendency to the person to get a little bit bored, because they say, well, soul growth's all about the year after, not what's going on here. Well, I say, yes, it is. However, this is what you're here for. You're a spirit being first, not a physical being. Your spirit self that's within is the eternal one. This shell is just here to house your spirit self, to take you through experiences. Now that has a tendency to bore most people. Or the interested mind will say, extend on it, tell me more. Now, this is because I know this is what it is all about. I personally conduct my life in the sense that I won't allow myself to be overly bothered by the mundane. And what I mean is the average, everyday things that everyone has to experience. Bad phone calls, family member just hurt in a car accident but okay. The bank calling you to say you're in overdraft. All those sorts of things. They're true, they're real, but they're an illusion of example what you've got to get through, what you've got to deal with, your personal responsibilities. That's what the unfortunate thing is here. That once we're born, as a young child, we don't have personal responsibilities. Our mind's not set to the outside world, what's going on. When we get to puberty and we get a little older, teenage years, then we start to learn, oh my God, does your life change then? Then into young adult life, your responsibilities. What society is expecting you to do.
That's right, yeah.
Conduct yourself. If you don't conduct yourself in a good manner, you'll go to jail. If you hurt people, you'll go to jail. If you don't work, you'll be poor. All these things that you have to cope with, it's a lot as a human being. However, again, I look at that and say, well, you know what? Where I'm living, this space in my life, the people I love, my friends, we're in quite a good space, a place, because if I cast my mind broader afield and I say a couple of thousand miles away, there are kiddies that are dying in weeks of their life, starting of malaria, Africa, India, a place like this. Now they've got poverty, they've got big problems. So that's where I say I'm very fortunate. That's where we all should say we're very fortunate. Or where people are ill, youngsters, young people, or their lives taken away from them through accidents, murders, suicide, all this stuff. If you sit down like I've done and I do with my family and I say, we take all these things, put them all together, none of us have got that, have we?
No.
Aren't we fortunate? Aren't we blessed?
Absolutely.
And that's the word, blessed.
Absolutely. I've got to mention, obviously, the way that you work. I know quite a few mediums here in Cornwall quite well that claim that they don't necessarily see spirit or things like that. Obviously, you're quite well known, I hope you don't mind me saying this, for being quite dramatic with the way you get messages. Okay.
It's the energy because of my excitement, because I'm getting it the way I'm getting it.
Yeah.
If I was just sensing, I wouldn't be as excited.
No, of course. And I've got to mention this because internet and getting known and any publicity has got to be good publicity as far as I'm concerned. Is there's probably no video out there at the moment, especially when our viewers have mentioned, oh, you're meeting Derek, must mention what's his thoughts about going viral with the Mary Loves Dick video. That is probably got to be right up there.
Well, yes, it has, and I've taken to it eco-friendly,
Yeah.
purely simply because it was a one-off statement
Yeah.
that I've got to point out, and I've said in many interviews,
Yeah.
it was purely natural.
Yeah.
It was not contrived. It was happening because I've explained to people over radio before and television that how that came about was I was getting questioned by Yvette, about him, the great or notorious man himself. Okay?
Yeah.
And I happened to say I was in a location where he was brought up. And I said, very innocently, look, Mary loves Dick. No, like say Mary's his mum, she loves Dick like her mother loved. And also I said, Mary covers him up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it went all around the world.
Yeah.
And the bosses that live in TV, they were just they hugged me after that show.
Well, that's
Said,
right.
it's diamond. It's,
Yeah, well, that's right. But then
pure gold.
yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I mean, but you could look
So
at that.
I was ridiculed by the ridiculed people.
Yeah, because people could say, "Oh, that was staged" or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, it wasn't.
You know,
no. And there were other times in other
and on Heart, it wasn't staged.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Honestly, and on Heart,
yeah.
there was another time in Wales at the Skirrid Inn, and we'd walked in as the whole team, as the crew. And everyone was setting up the cameraman sound, and he said, we've got about an hour, so we'll go and have a bite to eat, because we're putting food on. And it wasn't, we come back, and we're ready to mic up, and we're get ready to start, earnestly. And I'd set off camera, because the cameras were inside. I walked into a hallway. I'd never been in there. I hadn't been in the place very long. And I went to one, I saw what I saw, and Yvette was next to me. I said, oh my God. I said, that man, he's just been tossed off. I didn't say off there, just tossed off. Well, of course, I heard pure from the background, Carl Beattie, pure gold.
Yeah.
So that went, he's just been tossed off. And I said, and I looked at him, it went through my mind, and Mary looked, oh, no. So I said, off that bouncer there, he was tossed off. He had a rope round his neck, and he hung. Now, that was before the cameras.
Yeah.
Now, she said to me, I know what I'm going to ask you next, Dad, is that has to be replicated.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not replicating nothing. I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
So please, Daddy, at least you've said it, and other people have heard it.
Yeah.
But when I did say it, I didn't say it in the same vein of testing me what I did just naturally.
Yeah.
And there were many other places where, thank God, they haven't all been picked up.
Yeah.
Because I remember saying to the editor, through Carl, look, please edit that out, please, because it's going to get round that it seems that every investigation we do, there's going to be a primer coming out, and that's not the case. So he was good that way.
And how is Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson, as far as when I had the very little amount of time to connect with him, I was very angry about that.
Yeah.
Because I was told initially, it was not the network's fault. They did try very hard because they went out to America and to invite Michael's mum, dad, even his brothers, and even his sisters. And I was told by a network executive just before, because I was flown from another country into Ireland to do this, and we're walking on the lawns at the estate that he'd rented, and the two top officials said to me, you're going to be upset here. And I just flown from South America, and I said, why? What? We couldn't get any of Michael's family here. And I said, oh no. I said, so who's going to be within the seance?
Yeah.
And they said, fans.
Yeah.
And I said, oh no. They might be his fans, but Michael wouldn't have known them at all. But you see, Guest, the man called Guest, was there.
David.
Yeah, no, David knew him. David grew up with him. And I asked him, well, at least put David in.
Well, that's what I was a bit confused about. There were such big expectations with that.
Yeah.
And had it been, I think that's another.
Well, that was the network's fault.
Well, there you go. It's like, why was it just fans? That why wasn't,
Yeah. Well, you see, I never got to the bottom of it. However, another thing that upset me was I told them how long I needed, and that was a conducted seance, 2 hours. They then told me in the gardens, we've got an hour slot, and it's costing a lot of money for this. And I said, it's not long enough. Little did I comprehend or understand Okay, but out of that hour, I was only given just short 38 minutes because of, other things.
Yeah.
So it was just how I even got as far as where I did in the time before. I think it was Matthew Smith who was given the role to come to me, tap me on the shoulder, Derek, that's it now. And I was just absolutely, I felt very let down because I got the flack across the world.
Well, this is it. This is
always
this
come
one
back to me.
That's right.
Shoulders broad.
Yeah, but that's why these sort of interviews are great, because you can get across what happened.
Truth,
because we watched it, at home.
I watched it as well.
And you watch it, and you think, oh God, I'm so waiting for something.
You see, Shane, had we been given the allotted time that was promised and had the right people there, okay, that would have been a totally different thing. Because I noticed in his energy, because his grandparents were also in the locality as well, and they were coming close and close. We would have got absolute truth there, but timings, we were not given enough time for him to feel safe with me and balanced. I mean, he was there close, but he was checking me out. He was also checking the people who were sitting there, and I know for a fact he knew that David Guest was there in the background. David was disgusted. David was so hurt that he wasn't allowed to sit in as representing his family.
Yeah.
And I was disgusted as well. But, as I say, I was the one, unfortunately, that took the flak over it. And I wasn't such a happy man about it, I'll tell you. But then again, like everything else, if you sign confidentiality clause when you're working on television, you're not allowed to say no.
We should have put it on the Cornwall channel. We would have given you 2 hours.
Yes, thank you.
We would have given you 2 hours.
Well, that would have been
television.
then. That would have been special then.
We might have even pushed it to 3. Just to
You
really
know
make
what?
sure.
Well, we could have maybe asked Michael to bring some of the others. Maybe I don't know.
We'll do it again.
Could you bring
We'll have a
Elvis
go.
Presley with you?
We'll have a good old
Marilyn
concert.
Monroe. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could go worldwide.
Well, tonight is looking like a full house here for you tonight, and
Is it?
it's looking very good. And what is it in general then that keeps everyone coming to see Derek Acorah?
My energy. I think that's more than anything else, because they tell you, after I always stay behind to do signings, have photographs, have little chats.
Yeah.
Always done it, always believed in it. And the vast majority of people who talk to me afterwards say, you're different than this person, that person. We feel safer, we feel closer to you.
Yeah.
You're not portraying like the mystic or anything like that. You're an ordinary man. You're also a sense of fun, you've got a sense of humour. You entertain us as well.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if I entertain, it's not something I'm conscious of. It's something that is within me. So if you put that together, and I said, maybe also is that you see me, Derek Acorah, as the instrument with Sam, my guide, as being happy doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to name names, I wouldn't do that's wrong, but I've seen mediumship stand in either woman or man and not see a smile out that person in a demonstration. Well, how are people going to warm to that?
That's right.
I don't stay on stage. I know I'm the only medium present in the world today that now goes direct to people. I don't stay on the stage, I bounce off the stage. I land on the person.
When do you start flipping into the mode? We're sat here now, so I'm not obviously, I know how it works normally. So how do you prepare for a show?
Always the same, right from where I go. I'll sit in my dressing room, I'll have my shower. It's carefully timed, it's a process. Have my shower, once I feel comfortable, I will sit in a quiet room, the lads don't come in and what have you, and I go into like a meditative state.
Right.
And that hones me. Often called the alpha state. And once I've blocked everything out, then the channel, it's like a chalice or a glass, it starts to fill up. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I know, I can sense that it's okay. So I'm actually open then from that moment, which could be 25 minutes before the show. And I do it purposely because many years ago, my guide said to me, Derek, if you opened up, which I didn't in those years, earlier, those spirit people who are in the atmosphere that's bothered to come, will probably come to you and let you know then before you even go out on that stage, which did work. It happened. So I was always ready because I always had someone to start with. And I've done, but I always start with a prayer of invocation. I'm a great believer in prayer, but not necessarily prayer to a certain religion.
Right.
Prayer to the higher self.
Yeah.
And I said, please only allow the highest and noblest of thoughts to come close to me. Only the same again in conversation or who wants to show themselves. Don't allow negative influence whatsoever to come on these sort of evenings. So I've opened up with the prayer. When I finish and I go back into the dressing room, before I go back out to people, you know, after the show, I close with a prayer of invocation. I say thank you to the higher power for allowing this to happen, and please would you now disattach the spirit people from me, because I've got to get on with my life, I've got to move, I've got to go and do this, I've got to go back to the hotel, I'm just being me, Derek, then, or I'm travelling home and it might be a 6-hour drive, you know, and it's always been my protector, always. And I've noticed, which is unfortunate, I suppose, over the years, a lot of jealousy exists, or seems to exist in our way, across the board. And would you believe it, it's not the ordinary lovely people that actually come in and cause disruption. You'll always find it's someone who's a wannabe, as they call it, who's on that walk of experience, and if they see something that they don't think they can achieve, then they'll ridicule. And it's so sad, that. So sad. It's still happening to this day.
I think it's always going to happen. So let's try and end
The
on
little
any...
green monster.
Well, that's right. No matter what you do. I mean, we put television out, you know, and, you know, you're always going to get whatever you produce.
Yeah.
So, oh, why have you done that? Why have you interviewed Derek? Why have you interviewed such and such?
Yeah.
Any messages for the Cornwall channel before we go? Just any generic messages, of course. I'm not asking you to tap into any higher self or anything, but...
Well, what I can say to you is that as we go into the month of September of this year, you personally will find that you're sitting down with, I don't know how I can describe it, very interested people who want to expand this
channel.
Yeah. And I see contracts. I see 2 contracts.
Yeah.
One contract is mediocre.
Right.
The other contract is hot, hot, hot. Now you've got to see the difference. The one that seems to be warm but not hot, 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 appears to first glance to be the best one.
Right.
But you're being kidded a little bit with this,
Right.
just to get you on board and sign.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that you have got 3 weeks from the time of these offers to really think about it, see the pitfalls, see what's coming the stronger. But you at that time will be what we call spirited, guided, and to accept the right thing. And I can see fabulous things 2014 for the channel.
We heard it here first.
Okay,
that's
you can
quite.
keep me to
I'll
that.
tell you what. I want to show you guys a text, and I'll show you after we cut. But I can't because it's quite a private text. But
Okay.
Derek, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Nice to be with you, Shane.
And hopefully, when you're back down, we'll get another chance to catch up.
I'd love that.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you, I'm going to.